It is time for another CCS Alumni Live. So I'm going to wait for a few folks to join the room before we add today's guest. I see today's guest is already here. Today's going to be an amazing CCS Alumni Live. For those of you who've never watched before, CCS Alumni Live is a weekly-ish Instagram Live series where we talk to graduates from CCS about their journey from high school to career. And today's guest is an amazing graduate from our Craft and Materials Studies program at CCS. So I'm going to read their bio first and then add them to the live. So today we are talking with Katie Bramlage, who is a full-time ceramicist and woodworker. She graduated from CCS in 2011 with her BFA in crafts, focusing specifically on ceramics. She considers herself to be a modern cave girl decorating her cave, using primarily wood and clay to create her art. She started her first business, Make Do Studio, after a wildly successful home-based exhibit called In Situ. And then in 2018, after a series of successful pop-up shops in the Rust Belt market here in Greater Detroit, she moved in as a permanent artisan with her studio KB & Co. Aside from selling her amazing ceramics work to Rust Belt market customers, Katie also provides creative consultation for visual merchandising and styling and designs custom pieces for her clients. So without further ado, I am going to add Katie to the with our CCS Alumni Live. And while she's joining, there's Katie.
Hi,
Hello.
guys.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. And I feel like that is not a Zoom background. That's like full effect studio in the background.
That's my basement.
Really? Oh my
Yep.
God, that's amazing. I know in reading a little bit about your bio, you started actually Make Do Studio at home, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
After we graduated from CCS, there was a group of us actually so in 2011, we created a 10-person collective and we worked
Mm-hmm.
out of a big warehouse on 6 Mile in Van Dyke called
Mm-hmm.
the Chocolate Cake Collective.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, so we really wanted to recreate the like collective studio vibes where I was the clay artist, we had graphic designers, photographers, and sort of create this vibe where we
Mm-hmm.
shared ideas and critiques because you leave school and you're on your own. So we tried to create a
Mm-hmm.
community vibe right away, and Make Do was born out of just using what I had where I am, and like I have ideas, I have inspiration, but you can't wait for all the other ingredients. Sometimes you have to just
Mm-hmm.
go, and then you tweak as you move, and like life is constantly just like an editing, right? So, but like
Mm-hmm.
Make Do is still a credo. I dropped the name to pursue just operating under Katie Bramlage in 2018. So
Mm-hmm.
that way I felt like I could play in all the materials and just really sort of work on the authentic, my own brand, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have such a beautiful aesthetic. Like that's one thing I always talk to students about is like you're working towards building your voice as an artist, your voice as a designer, and looking at your work, whether it's, mobile, it's a bowl, it's like it all is clearly coming from your artistic voice and vision. What is kind of like your I know you spoke a little bit about make do, like the credo behind that, but do you have like an art statement or something that motivates the way that you make?
I do. And you touched on it briefly, but I studied geology loosely. I was born just picking up rocks and sticks. I love them, just super fascinated by what nature leaves behind. And um, I pursued geology in Colorado, and then I
Mm-hmm.
moved into interior design because I knew
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to help like dial in spaces, and I just know how important uh, our surroundings are. And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
bringing the outside in is a big part of what I do. And
Mm-hmm.
then I also really like to imagine everything washed up on a beach and that I'm a cave girl decorating my cave. And that feeling when you find something and you're like, dang, I'm taking this thing home. I will
Mm-hmm.
remember this time and place. I want my work to do that for you. And I want it to uh, be a calm. Like, I really enjoy simplicity. I think there's a lot of sophistication in simplicity. And this world is moving so fast, technologically, just media. And I'm all about going the long, slow, hard way in my work. You know, like, I hand sand every component that go in the totems. It's laborious, but there's a meditation there for me. So it's a lot of playing and then repetition and, process. I would say process is a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. And I can assume and kind of feel just vicariously looking at work through imagery, like that meditative process that goes into creating the work is also felt by the people who are consuming the work,
That's
your
my
work
hope.
definitely has that calm aesthetic. It makes me feel like, you know,
That's
yeah.
what I love. I mean, I've always thought our homes were such a sacred place. And
Mm-hmm.
I think of these things as thank you notes to your home. And,
Aw.
like, your home provides shelter from the storm. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm also very aware that it is not a right,
Mm-hmm.
and it should be, but that not everyone has a shelter or a home. And so, you know, the gratitude you should show the space that you have,
Mm-hmm.
I think is like really important. And I think the pandemic has also demonstrated how important your space is if you are
Mm-hmm.
lucky enough to have one.
Yeah, very true. Spending a lot of time in my cave.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a wonderful stance to take for your creative process. So tell me this, tell me a little bit about what it's like to be a business owner in the ceramics, in the makers world, because I know a lot of students may have an idea of what it's like to be a freelance designer or illustrator, but what is it like to own your own business as a ceramicist?
Well, that's a great question. It is very layered. I We work hard.
Hmm.
Like, it's a lot of work to create the work. Being a business and then recently opening up a shop where
Hmm.
I bring in other artists too. So now I get to scout and tell
Oh.
other people's stories. And so I try to continue to tell the cave girl, cave narrative, but I'm
Hmm.
bringing in my friends as well.
Hmm.
Um, I would say that entrepreneurial spirit is um, it's demanding. It's a very
Hmm.
demanding thing. You need to answer the emails and figure out taxes and really face a lot of things that aren't super glamorous or
Hmm.
pretty or have anything to do with your aesthetic and your
Hmm.
vibes, but are very much a part of the package.
Hmm.
Um, I After graduation, I worked as a gallery assistant, and then manager, doing visual merchandising and handling the back end of a gallery. And
Hmm.
I consider that like my 6 year MBA, unofficial MBA, where I learned about cost and wholesale and artist, communications.
Hmm.
CCS does a really great job of giving you access to the tools and the processes and some
Hmm.
awesome people. But the business side, you're going to have to learn that kind of on your own. A
Hmm.
1 semester class with elevator pitches is awesome, but it doesn't take you to the next level.
Hmm.
I had to pursue a number of workshops and like 8 12-week courses about minding your art business and
Hmm.
having a business plan and looking at who my
Hmm.
competition might be. And um, I haven't gone and talked to a bank yet, but if I had to, I know what I would need to say,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's been slow, organic growth. I'm trying to keep it sustainable.
Hmm.
So that's why I'm in my basement. It's all part of my mortgage.
Tax write-offs.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, and I know one thing that's changed since we were at CCS. Well, I'm still there kind of, but since we were students at CCS, is that they actually now have an entrepreneurial studies concentration. So they
Good.
are teaching
Ooh.
branding and money management and all the, all those amazing things that help someone to launch a business. But I hear you, that there's a whole body of knowledge aside from creating the work to operating that business. Yeah.
I would say too, like, don't be afraid to diversify. I've worn a
Mm-hmm.
lot of hats since I graduated. I've done um, window displays for stores. I do visual merchandising on a freelance basis. You have to start at the bottom and work your way up. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not afraid to do things that aren't necessarily clay related, but
Mm-hmm.
fall in my vein of interests.
Yeah.
And I can produce an aesthetic that I would be proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Like in your portfolio of your mind is the work that you're working on going in it.
I like that. The portfolio of your mind.
Some of them don't make it in there, and you know that when you're
Yeah.
working on it, right? You're like, okay, this
Yeah.
one's going to pay the bills. This one
Mm-hmm.
isn't soul work, but this one is going to help me get to the next month. When
Mm-hmm.
I first started my business, I used to, every month I paid my bills in full on the first. I would pour a little glass of champagne and have a little celebration because
Mm-hmm.
dang, it's not easy, but it is so rewarding. I thought I
Mm-hmm.
was working hard for my ex boss or my previous job, and then when you go out and do it by yourself, you realize that you don't know what hard work is until you're
So you have
out
to
there
manage all
hustling.
the things.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you're doing an amazing job. Just the work that you're putting out there, the fact that you have your own store, and now that you're empowering others, like you're selling the merchandise and work of other artists. Have you worked with other CCS artists in your store space?
Oh, absolutely.
That's awesome.
That was a really great spot to just start from. And
Hmm.
I would love for it to almost be like a stepping stone for some of the crafts majors. So
Hmm.
I need to go back down there and reintroduce myself. It's been 9 years. But, I work on both wholesale and consignment depending on where
Hmm.
the artist is at. And there's a lot of education. I tell them what to expect, how it should
Hmm.
work, where their pricing is, and sort of just gently bestow some of the lessons that I've learned, and
Hmm.
everyone's going to have a different approach
Yeah.
to the material itself, to how they interact with creating a studio. It made sense for me. We're in Hazel Park, so just at 8 Mile and Woodward, a couple
Hmm.
miles from school. And we found a house that was very inexpensive and bought it and created that as our foundation. And so
Hmm.
there were times when we weren't doing maybe the most fun thing, but we were playing the long game
Hmm.
and buying the house, slowly building it up to a studio that has all of the tools I need. At
Hmm.
CCS, the sandpaper's free. When you're done with school, you got to buy the wood glue and the sandpaper, and you have to know how to plug the kiln in, and you have to think you're not going to set your house down and your fire, burn your house down.
Hmm.
You know, I you got to ask a lot of questions when you're at school, because
Hmm.
if you're going to try to do it by yourself, you
You
know
want to make sure you know those answers. No burnt down
exactly.
houses.
No, and you know how to ask or look for the help, right?
Yeah.
Like CCS teaches you how to think in a
Hmm.
certain material or
Hmm.
with certain tools, and then the rest is up to you.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's one I tell students all the time. We can teach you techniques, we can introduce you to some folks in the industry, but we can't teach you passion. Like you have to want this,
Yeah.
and have to pursue what you want to do with your career path. So let's rewind time a little bit. We talked quite a bit about your journey so far as in your career, but I know you mentioned briefly that you had a background in geology and interior design. So when it came time to apply CCS, were you transferring from another school?
Yes. I I like to tell people it's been a serpentine journey. So I was what was considered a non-traditional student at
Mm-hmm.
CCS, meaning I think I was 26 when I started
Mm-hmm.
there. So I grew up in Metro Detroit, out in Commerce Township, and
Mm-hmm.
my high school career was very focused on your core academics.
Mm-hmm.
And in my junior year, I got the nerve and the courage to say, I want more art in my curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to sit down with our principal at the time and with my mom and say, like, I already did all of the hard classes or, the booky ones. I want to
Mm-hmm.
do 18 credits of art. And I got away with it. But I didn't feel like I had a portfolio that was cohesive enough to graduate and like start applying to colleges.
Mm-hmm.
I was just sort of finding my voice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at 18, I picked up and moved to Colorado to kind of be closer to the Rocky Mountains, and I actually was a ski lift operator. Um, so I went and did the mountain life and sort of got a chance to learn just what life is at 18, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like
Mm-hmm.
paying rent, buying my own groceries, being a
Mm-hmm.
grown up. And I did that for a few years and studied physical geology and some art classes out there. I was working towards an associate's degree in
Mm-hmm.
Colorado and moved home in 2006 or so
Mm-hmm.
and started in an interior design program at IADT in Troy.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I wanted to work on spaces, but
Mm-hmm.
in drafting class, I raised my hand and I said, "Hey, like, where's the room in this school where we get to make stuff?" And my instructor, who was actually also a CCS graduate long ago, she said, "You stay after class." And she said, "If you can afford this place, you need to go to CCS."
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm fully I'm doing FAFSA, I'm applying for aid, but she's like, if you're doing all of that, and she nearly lost her job, she has a real soft spot as an alumni for CCS.
Mm-hmm.
So that interior design program wasn't very happy with her for sending me along. But she put her neck on the line, and she's definitely one of my guardian angels in my art career.
Mm-hmm.
She sat down with me and helped me build a portfolio,
Mm-hmm.
and just sort of gave me some of the verbiage and confidence to go in to admissions and then put
Mm-hmm.
it on the line. And once I got into crafts, I was accepted into furniture design or
Mm-hmm.
interdisciplinary at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I also got a wood shop tech job. So
Mm-hmm.
I immediately was 26. I'm like, okay, I'm trying CCS out. I jumped from interior design. I'm in the materials now. Like, give me all of the materials. And I quickly learned I do not love metals. Not my jam, but that was the beauty of how they set up the crafts department. You
Mm-hmm.
try them all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was drawn to the furniture and woodworking.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I actually transferred and did a year of glass. And then I transferred into ceramics.
So you really were like serpentine journey for sure, even within CCS.
Yes, and for real. And now I look back and I say, okay, use the whole buffalo, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I gained confidence and knowledge in the wood shop in that year that I was a specific major there.
Mm-hmm.
Glass blowing really opened up some things for me, but I could see that it was going to be hard to pursue because of the way glass blowing is as a material. Like, glass has to stay hot 365 days a year, 24/7, and just the cost associated. So I started to look at the materials and the processes and go, okay, like, as a cave girl, I want to live out in proper, like, on a where the water meets the land, and I
Mm-hmm.
have a really nice postman who comes and picks up all my work and brings it to society. So that's my long game. But I knew I needed a practice, and Tom Fardell is my second guardian angel in this
Mm-hmm.
story. He
Mm-hmm.
sat me down and just said, I can tell you're smart and you want to try everything. So he's
Mm-hmm.
like, come to clay. I'll teach you mold making. I'll teach you the vacuum form. We played with cork. We played with cement. So, like, clay is just a broader term for casting and mold making and just learning how
Mm-hmm.
to think. And then you can apply every different material to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, serpentine, very serpentine.
But life is a journey, right?
Exactly.
So might as well be fun and try some different things along the way. That's
They make
awesome.
sense now. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it makes sense now is what it didn't at the time, and you can't see the forest from the trees, but I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of followed my interests and they compounded. It's not like I ever deserted anything. They
Mm-hmm.
just compounding into this package that is now my aesthetic
Mm-hmm.
and my brand. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Yeah. It's it takes a while to get there.
it
I'm just
does.
thinking through my dream. I'm just like, what was I doing there? Oh, this is why I was doing it. What was this for? Oh, this is what that leads to. It all eventually makes sense.
It
And
does.
I'm grateful to hear about your journey and all of these alumni stories and journeys, because for as many students as there are that many paths to what someone needs to feel fulfilled in their life and their work and their creative process. A lot of students, want to have it all figured out at 18, and I'm just like, that sounds great. And some people do, but that is not the majority.
Yep,
And it makes for a more interesting story when you have a few turns in the journey. So I'm grateful for you sharing that journey. Um, so tell me this: you talked a little bit about what you gained from CCS, and specifically from your CCS guardian angels across the way. What would you say is the most important thing that you learned or gained from your time at CCS?
so two things I would
Mm-hmm.
say. I don't even remember who gave me the advice, but they said that while you're here, beat this place up. Use everything. You're going to use those tools wrong. There are people here who can help you fix it. Like, but like this is where you need to try it all.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just walk back and forth from your car to your classroom. Like, swing by this other department and meet
Mm-hmm.
people and interdisciplinary friends and approaches to working in life, I think
Mm-hmm.
is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a core group of people, and we talk about um, the net worth of my network. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and my friends are amazing, and we all like have each other's back, and there's collaboration and there's
Mm-hmm.
critique, and um, they're not ceramic majors.
Right.
So, we came from advertising, we came from graphic design, but we all did the hard work of CCS, and so we have that in common.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say, you know, broaden your view of what you want to get out of there,
Mm-hmm.
and then beat it up, because that's part of what you're paying for.
That's what you're paying for. Use
Yeah,
every penny
don't
of
be
that tuition.
disrespectful, don't be dangerous, don't be silly or stupid, but like don't be hesitant to try
Yeah,
things either.
that's amazing advice. That is amazing advice. That's what the place is for. And I see several CCS alum who are probably part of the Chocolate Cake Collective are here. Hi,
Yeah.
everybody. So I'm going to take a break actually from asking my questions to see if anybody who is tuning in, or people, I know some people sent questions ahead of time. I want to make sure you get a chance to answer some of the student and our guest questions.
Perfect.
Then we'll end it with a question of mine. Um, oh, I know someone asked a question on the story and it's not popping up here. Oh, dang. If you're watching, make sure to ask your questions using the question box, the Q&A box here on the Instagram Live, and that way we'll be able to ask Katie the questions that you have about being a CCS student, being a CCS alum, working as a craft and materials artist, being an entrepreneur, and more. Okay? Alrighty. I'm just going through chat, make sure I didn't leave out any questions that were dropped in the chat box too.
No problem.
I see someone says, this girl's been pushing hard these last few years. So proud.
That is Mary Sindridge, and she would be an excellent alumni to interview as well. Illustration.
Awesome. I'm definitely looking for more alum. We're
I'll
we're
send you a whole
going
list.
strong. Yeah,
Not
I
a
got the list
that
you sent me, but if anybody's tuning in who I haven't reached out to, reach out. I'd love to talk with you. I know there are students who would love to hear your stories as well. All right. So, one question that a student has had earlier, they asked earlier, was how do you differentiate between work that you're doing for mass production and work that you're doing for yourself? Is there a difficulty in navigating those two spaces? How does that work go?
Yes, that's a great question. Um, I can say in respect to like owning a shop that
Mm-hmm.
there are seasons. right? So like Christmas would be the time to have many items.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the shopping, from my experience, October to December is about uh, just sort of making a bulk of your money.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the year is for product development and prototyping and trying out shows in a traditional sense. This summer is obviously going to be a bit different, but
Mm-hmm.
there are still some avenues and some interesting approaches you can take to getting your work in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you, I do production because you have to pay the bills. And
Mm-hmm.
I hired my dad, my semi-retired dad, who had zero art experience,
Oh.
but he has a lot of really awesome, focused dad energy, and
Mm-hmm.
he's extremely timely. And I'm enjoying watching him unlock some creativity. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
personal level of like teaching him what I do, him
Mm-hmm.
we're celebrating the successes together. So, and then my sister also helps me sell the work on the weekends. She is my Sunday staff. So it's a family affair. But we bounce back and forth. I do custom work to fulfill the like problem solving one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And you open and close the custom work, right? Like you only have so much energy as a person and as an artist, and you need to uh, you need to just balance everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I know when I rebuilt my website last fall, production fell way down. So
Mm-hmm.
you kind of like try to look at your year and you're like, all right, I'm gonna put a month into this,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to back off of something else.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm always just sort of getting ready for Christmas. And that is because I came from a gallery background as well. So
Mm-hmm.
managing the gallery, I have a little PTSD around the holidays, but it is intense, and January is time for resting and
Mm-hmm.
healing and regrouping and sort of plotting the next year. So I have
Mm-hmm.
fallen into a system. This year is definitely feeling a little strange. But we've been at it long enough that I have clients that are really supportive and
Mm-hmm.
patient, and just like, please let me know how I can interact with you. So,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a follow-up question with one, just in general, you being a cave girl and having your aspirations to live far out in the mountains. But two, with the state of the world today, having a brick and mortar store, and then obviously everyone pivoting online, how is that impacting either your practice or your business?
Both hugely.
Mm-hmm.
So right at the beginning of the pandemic, my dad stopped coming over, but he kept making pieces in the safety of his home. So
Mm-hmm.
we maintained a full production schedule, but we just divided and conquered.
Mm-hmm.
And that was huge in a spiritual way for me, and
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of not lose hope and keep perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We then I then pivoted to putting a lot more work online and promoting that. And
Mm-hmm.
then I also deconstructed my totems, which you posted a bunch of pictures of, but they're a strand.
Beautiful.
And I sent kits to people who could make them at their homes. So
Oh,
then I would jump
wow.
on Zoom. So then we could have a contactless hangout, which was also really important for my mental state and keeping
Mm-hmm.
connectivity. Um, Having a shop, I'm an extrovert, and I love chatting with people. So I'm like waving hi to all my neighbors. And so the totem kits was a really great way for me to stay connected
Mm-hmm.
safely. And
Mm-hmm.
then, so we were closed for 3 months, and the Rust Belt market was very gracious with our rent,
Mm-hmm.
and suspended it for us. Uh, and then we could come back. So we came back in June,
Nice.
and we have limited capacity. We have 6 foot social distancing. We have masks required and sanitizer everywhere, but it's been awesome. Ferndale has been so respectful of the
Mm-hmm.
new normal, and
Mm-hmm.
I think I haven't seen some of my customers, but I've seen a lot of them. And
Mm-hmm.
they're just happy to see us. And
Mm-hmm.
then as a result of COVID too, I started donating a portion of my sales to Southeast Michigan food banks
Oh,
because
wow.
I'm really wrestling with the fact that being a ceramic artist isn't super essential. I
Mm-hmm.
think being an artist is essential, but I'm wrestling with it personally. And so if
Mm-hmm.
a portion of my sales go to help feed my community, that
Mm-hmm.
puts that at rest for me and gives me more
Mm-hmm.
energy to keep going in the ceramic realm.
That's powerful.
Um, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's powerful. And I agree with you that art is essential. Like there are ways that, art has the power to heal and help people through times like this, even if it's not, what we eat and what we wear. So I think you're doing essential work on multiple levels. And that's really powerful to hear how you pivoted with the totem kits for this space, still finding a way to interact with customers and not only send your work out there, but help other people to create with your pieces. So that's you're just awesome.
Oh, wow. It's, you got to stay sharp.
Hmm.
And my significant other likes to tell me to keep your head on a swivel. So,
Hmm.
it's try to be authentic to yourself and your
Hmm.
interests, and then um, do more good than anything
Hmm.
else, you know, whether you're, whatever your medium is, you
Hmm.
know.
For sure. So excited to be having this conversation with you, Katie. So I see that we have a few more questions coming in the chat. I know someone asked about your transition from school to entrepreneurship. We did cover that. So for those of you who are joining us a little later and you want to catch the conversation from the beginning, don't worry. This will be added to my IGTV and it will also be available on the CCS YouTube admissions page. So you will be able to see this conversation from the beginning because Katie's had quite a journey, and it's an amazing story. So make sure you watch the playback. Um, and then someone asked, "Oh, this is a great question. Do you compare yourself to other ceramic artists or other artists in general?"
Oh, I don't compare myself a lot, no. I know I'm going down the cave girl road alone, and I find a lot of comfort in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do love to watch other processes and materials and trains of thought. And
Mm-hmm.
I also got a piece of advice regarding social media and just like inundation,
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming inundation. And it was to sort of, in my case, I removed a handful of ceramic artists. And I follow painters and I follow fiber artists and I follow material that aren't a direct the same material,
Mm-hmm.
especially on Instagram, right? Because after a good long hard scroll, you can come out of your Instagram and be like, all right, everything's already been done. It's
Mm-hmm.
all been done. So I removed a lot of ceramic inspiration so that I think that, I'm trying to come up with my own stuff. But I love
Mm-hmm.
looking at photography and I love fiber arts. I mean, if I could go just get another degree, if I could just keep going to
Do another
school,
field study.
fibers would be it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and I have lots of interests, and
Mm-hmm.
my Instagram and just like where I look for stuff is very varied. I love to figure out a way to get golf in there. Oh yes, we be loving the golf, and and yeah, I don't compare. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's room for everyone. I try to have an
Mm-hmm.
abundance mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I see things that seem very similar, but we're not arriving at the same thing in the same
Right.
way.
Right. Very, very helpful answer. I, as a participant in the alumni labs, also gain a lot of inspiration. So it's a happy accident that I'm learning alongside the students who are tuning in. So, any other questions for Katie before we wrap up today? You guys are asking some amazing questions. I see a
Yeah.
lot of people are chiming in and tuning in, so that's amazing to see. Okay. Well, I always end with one question for myself. Um, just because I always like to think about who we were as young artists, and help students who may identify with that young artist. So if there was a magical time machine that could take you back to high school, Katie, so even before studying geology and interior design, high school, Katie, if you could give yourself any advice about pursuing your creative path, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, um, I would say that if even if it's a very quiet little voice that's speaking to you, that's the one I would listen to. Um, you know, uh, fear is part of the creative process, but you shouldn't respond to it really. Like it's there because you're trying new stuff, but um, don't let fear drive and just listen to the teeny voice because that's the one
Mm-hmm.
that's really talking to you.
Mm-hmm. That came in a little broken, but I heard all the words, and hopefully everyone tuning in did too, because that was a
Okay.
huge, huge, huge burst of inspiration. Now you're real time again. But yeah, don't let fear win. That tiny voice is sometimes it's real quiet. It's like maybe draw, but that's a huge piece of advice that you would give yourself. I know I wish my young self had someone saying that to them. Um, yeah, Hammy House says, listen to your teeny voice. That's amazing. You are amazing. This has been a wonderful conversation, Katie. And I know, like I said, I've been
Thanks.
inspired and motivated by just learning about your journey and your insights. And I know that students who are tuning in and watching the recordings will be able to say the same. So thank you so much for your time today. And thank you for making your voice heard in the world with your art.
Brandy, thank you. And also to you, like, thank you for becoming this bridge between alumni and incoming students. And your energy has been awesome since the first time I ever came across you. It must have been
Aw,
like 2009,
a long time.
2008.
Yeah.
Like, and I love the earrings. I always have. I've always loved your earrings.
Thank you.
So,
I appreciate that. I need to get some work from you. Again, looking at your work online. Oh, before we go, where can people go to find your work? Where do you prefer people go? Should they follow you on Instagram? Should they look at your website? Where should we direct people?
thank you. Instagram's great. That is like my most up to date sort of visual daily journal.
Mm-hmm.
And the little store, the little teeny shop that could. I'd love to meet any craft majors that have caught this
Mm-hmm.
and are looking for maybe somewhere to show some work. And so that's at the Rust Belt Market. We're open
Mm-hmm.
Saturdays and Sundays. And then I do have a website at www.katiebramlage.com. So, yeah.
I'm telling you guys now, you have to check it out. Also follow _Katie Bramlage _ here on Instagram to be continuously inspired by her work and practice. Katie, thank you so much. Everyone who tuned in, thank you so much. And be sure to tune in tomorrow. Normally we only have one CCS Alumni Live in a week, but
Patrick Daly's
tomorrow,
going to be great.
yeah, I'm super
Oh,
jazzed for
I'm
that.
geeked.
So hopefully you tune in too. But
I
yes, thank you
will.
everybody for joining today. And I hope you all stay safe and have a beautiful rest of your Tuesday. Bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
Brandy.
Katie.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.